This topic introduces activity-based costing, ABC, which is a tool that has been embraced by a wide variety of service, manufacturing and non-profit organizations. Activity-based costing, ABC, is a method of allocating costs to products and services. This topic is based on two books. Managerial Accounting written by Garrison, Noreen, and Brewer. Management and Cost Accounting written by Drury. For more information, please visit the e-learning platform. By Karim Sharf. ABC is implemented by many organizations all over the world. Some ABC adopters in France and Morocco. Activity-based costing, ABC, is a method of allocating costs to products and services. Here you are the main steps in order to implement ABC. Identify and define activities. Trace costs to activities and cost objects. Assign costs to activity. Calculate activity rates. Assign costs to cost objects. Prepare management reports. The first step is to define activities per department. Two types of activity measures include transaction driver, a simple count of the number of times that an activity occurs. Example: number of customer orders, number of units. Duration driver measures the amount of time needed to perform an activity. This is more accurate than a transaction driver, but it takes more effort to record. Example: machine hours. In the Alpha Boat, the ABC team selected 5 corresponding activity measures: cost driver, activity, customer orders. The activity measure. Number of customer orders, transaction driver. Product design. The activity measure. Number of product designs, transaction driver. Order size. The activity measure. Machine hours, duration driver. Customer relations. The activity measure. Number of active customers, transaction driver. The definition for each of the activity is: customer orders. Assigned all costs of resources that are consumed by taking and processing customer orders. Product designs. Assigned all costs of resources consumed by designing products. Order size. Assigned all costs of resources consumed as a consequence of the number of units produced. Customer relations. Assigned all costs associated with maintaining relations with customers. Other. Assigned all overhead costs that are not associated with the other cost pools. Step 2. Whenever possible, directly trace overhead costs to activities and cost objects. The manufacturing and non-manufacturing overhead costs for Alpha Boat are as shown on your screen. Notice, the shipping costs can be directly traced to customer orders. The remainder of the overhead costs will be assigned to customer orders using the ABC cost pools. Step 3. Assign costs to activity. This is also called first stage allocation. The cross-functional employee interviews resulted in the resource allocations as shown. Notice, the indirect factory workers allocated 25% of their time to the customer orders activity, 40% of their time to the product design activity, 20% of their time to the order size activity, 10% of their time to customer relations, and 5% of their time to the other activity. The shipping costs have no corresponding allocation percentages. This is because the shipping costs will be directly traced to customer orders. Once the percentage allocations have been determined, it is a simple matter to assign costs to activity. For example, the indirect factory wages assigned to the customer orders activity, 125,000 dirhams, is computed by multiplying the total amount of indirect factory wages, 500,000 dirhams, by the percentage of time that indirect factory workers spent on this activity, 25%. As another example, the factory equipment depreciation assigned to the customer orders activity, 60,000 dirhams, is computed by multiplying the total amount of factory equipment depreciation, 300,000 dirhams, by the percentage of time that the factory equipment was used to support this activity, 20%. The completed grid of first stage allocations is shown on your screen. The Alpha Boat ABC team determined activity levels for each activity. 1,000, 1,000, customer orders. 200, 200, new designs. 20,000, 20,000, machine hours. 100, 100, customer relations activities. This information enabled the team to compute ABC rates for each activity by dividing the total cost in each activity by the respective quantity of the activity measure. The activity rate for each activity is computed by dividing the total cost for an activity by the total activity. For example, the customer orders activity rate is 300 dirhams per order, found by dividing 300,000 dirhams by 1,000 orders. Notice, the other activity does not have an activity rate. This is because these organizations' sustaining costs will not be assigned to customer orders. Before proceeding, let's get a visual perspective of the Alpha Boat ABC system. The direct materials, direct labor and shipping costs were directly traced to customer orders. The first stage allocation process assigned the remaining overhead costs to the 5 activity. Then, activity measures were identified, activity levels were determined, and activity rates were computed for each activity as shown earlier. These rates will be used in the next step to assign overhead costs to customer orders. For each activity, the amount of activity consumed by the product or customer is multiplied by the activity rate to arrive at the amount of overhead cost applied to the product or customer. For example, let's look at the following data for one Alpha Boat customer that bought 2 products, standard stanchions and custom compass housings. Detailed costs for both products and the number of each product ordered by Windward Yachts are shown on the slide. The second stage allocations show that 600 dirhams from the customer orders and 3,200 dirhams from the order size pool were assigned to the standard stanchions. Similarly, 300 dirhams from the customer orders, 1,225 dirhams from the product design pool, and 64 dirhams from the order size were assigned to custom compass housings. 2 management reports that can be prepared include a product margin report and a customer margin report. The product margin is calculated by deducting directly traceable costs and ABC costs from sales. Notice, the product margin for standard stanchions is 5,660 dirhams. The product margin is calculated by deducting directly traceable costs and ABC costs from sales. Notice, the product margin for custom compass housings is a loss of 1,027 dirhams. The customer margin of 1,083 dirhams is calculated by subtracting the customer level costs, 3,550 dirhams, from the combined product margins for both products, 4,633 dirhams. Continuing with the Alpha Boat example, assume that the company uses a predetermined overhead rate based on machine hours. In this case, the predetermined overhead rate would be 50 DHS per machine hour. The manufacturing overhead assigned to stanchions and the compass housing would be 10,000 dirhams and 200 dirhams, respectively. The product margins for stanchions and compass housings would be a negative 360 dirhams and 387 dirhams, respectively. The limitations of activity-based costing are: implementing and maintaining an ABC system requires substantial resources. The benefits of increased cost accuracy may not outweigh costs. Selection of cost drivers may not be easy. For example, sometimes it is difficult to collect this information: the number of customer orders, number of product designs. In practice, most managers insist on fully allocating all costs to products. The ABC system described in this session does not conform to this preference. Irrelevant cost should be ignored. Non-current costs. ABC systems do not automatically identify the relevant costs for particular decisions. Therefore, ABC data can be easily misinterpreted and must be used with care when making decisions. Costs assigned to products, customers, and other cost objects are only potentially relevant. ABM. Activity-based management. The use of activity-based cost information for management purposes, such as cost reduction programs, cost modeling, and customer profitability analysis. Thank you for watching.